Afternoon. Kind of liking this mic. So today we're going to be talking about MOOCs, but I'm kind of hoping that you're not in too much of a slump and you've had lots of caffeine at the break, because this is going to be an interactive session. Things that you hate. So we're here today to talk about MOOCs. My lovely panel have voted 3-2-1 that I also add in a little bit as well, so apologies on that one. But on my panel today, I'm very blessed to be with a fantastic team of MOOC creators. I have Gabriel Schaepman here.
It's a pleasure. Hi.
And he is Vice President, I've got to make sure I get this all right, it's very prestigious. Vice President, HR Learning and a Development Consultant at Swiss Re. He has produced an award-winning app, and he's an advocate of lifelong learning. He's as bad as me, can't stop collecting master's degrees. So it becomes an obsession. I also then as well have Petra Peeters and Marlo Kengen. I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing all these correctly. And they come to us as senior university lecturers from the Han University of Applied Sciences. And they come with such a depth of background in L&D and developing content, with over 20 years experience each in both L&D, learning design, and corporate fields. So I'm really hoping that you guys are pumped for another exciting session, that you're massively excited. I'm going to do some puns. That you're open to interacting this afternoon, that you'll be working with us online in this interaction, and of course you have some fantastic takeaways. So, as I said, I'm joining this crew. If you want to talk to any of us online as well, please use the session hashtag so we can pick it up, but also here are all our direct names. Gabriel is going to be using Slido, so he's going to be mixing it up a little bit. And we'll be talking today about a range of different MOOCs. So, this is my little bit that they've shoehorned in. I'm Dr. Hannah Gore. I have been working in the field of MOOCs now for 7 years, and I specialise in MOOC engagement. And what we mean by MOOC engagement is always a bit of a problem, because in my doctorate, I couldn't find a single damn definition for MOOC engagement. I could find 1,000 different definitions for engagement in different ways, but not with MOOCs. And that's a massive problem, because MOOCs are sometimes too obsessed with completion rates and not enough about engagement within. You know, what made this MOOC a great MOOC? What made this a really great design? What did people love about it? What did the people hate about it? And the reason why people became obsessed with completion was because basically, you know, platforms like Coursera monetize MOOCs. You had to get to the end to buy a certificate. This is the only field in OER in which we actually are obsessed with completion. Nowhere else will you find it. You won't say, how many people finished reading that Kindle book? How many people finished watching that YouTube video? How many people listened to that entire iTunes podcast? But when you say you work in MOOCs, the number one question is, what's your completion rate? So I used to work for the Open University as a senior producer until just over a year ago. And during that time, I made over 70 MOOCs for them. And we presented over 200 times in my time in creating and working MOOCs in FutureLearn, through a range of programs, including credit-bearing programs as well. And drop-off rates are always a massive problem. I mean, this is, again, what we used to talk about, we used to obsess about. And so it kind of led to an idea that I should do a doctorate. And what I wanted to look at was engagement of learning design. Why are they doing this? I mean, it's always a really good question. And so they asked me, the lovely panel, to bring to you very quickly my key findings. And the key findings were, I looked at 19 MOOCs over a 3-year period that presented 76 times. And what made those MOOCs special was they were created in the same year by the same learning design team, by the same producers and editors, and the same senior producer, which was myself. The only difference was different academic writers for the content. So as a sort of data set, this data set doesn't exist anywhere else, because when you're looking at MOOC data, you're comparing one made by one person with one team and another university for another platform compared to another, and it's apples against oranges. So I looked at over 800,000 enrollers that came back and made 425,000 learners, and I asked over 120,000 of them, why the hell are you here? And 87.3% went, because I want to. it's personal interest. And that's a phenomenally large sort of sector. Not so many of them were here to learn for studying. And that is of quite a lot of interest when you work inside a university, because that's the aim, to a certain degree, that you're actually going to bring them through and they're going to want to do studies, or they're going to want to do future studies. So then I also asked the question, well, surely then if it's not for studies, is it for work? And what was quite interesting was more people were taking them for professional development than they were to relevancy to their current job. So at least they thought that MOOCs would actually help them with their progression through to become someone better inside their organisation, get the next job. So personal and professional development was much more important than relevance to the current work job. And so then, of course, I looked at engagement. And like I said, it's a real problem because there's no actual definition. So what I did was I split it out to engagement with learning design. And then I looked at active engagement, people making comments, people watching videos, people doing stuff, to passive engagement. And passive engagement is just as important to look at than active engagement. So say, for example, Gabriel writes something deeply profound on a MOOC. I haven't got anything to add to that. It's deeply profound. But I will click and like it because I agree with Gabriel. That is a form of active lurking. That is them agreeing, that is them engaging, that is them reading. So sometimes you think, oh God, not a lot of people have made a lot of comments, but there's tons of likes. That means that they are still engaging with the course, and we should be looking at that as a piece of data. And so I looked at comments, likes, and step visits. And then I also looked at the way that they were moving back and forth between a course, because when you write a course, you really hope that they're going to do it in a linear journey. That's how you set it out, right? No, they don't. They pick and choose. They like the bits that they want. It's like a recipe. You do not buy a recipe book, and you do not start at the beginning, and you do not make 10 starters, then 10 mains, then 10 desserts, and maybe some aperitifs, and probably a little cocktail at the end. You'd be really full, but that is not how we go through a recipe book. We pick, we choose, we take what we want. So when I interviewed learners that had done MOOCs 2 years prior and asked them about their MOOCs, they'd picked out the bits that they'd liked. They saw that as engaging. They saw that as, I got what I wanted. I didn't need to finish the rest. So in designing courses now, I'm looking at how do I help people pick the bits that they want. And in doing this, we created a system called Super Steps, where I looked at the top comments, top likes, top step visits for all the courses, all 19 MOOCs, across 76 presentations. And where there was a like and comments in the top 10 for both, I isolated them out. So say step 1.4 appeared in both comments and likes for all 8 presentations. I isolated out that step and said, okay, what makes this step great? And what was interesting was, out of the 19 MOOCs, there was 1,520 steps in the 19 MOOCs. And at the end of the day, 62 were considered super. Which, when you create MOOCs all day long, that's really disheartening. You're like, really? Like at least half of them were brilliant? 62 on presentation after presentation, people found interesting. So when you're looking at data and you're looking at population as the only thing that is going to change, the pedagogy, the platform, and the presentation remains the same. It's just the population, so you really are looking at the pedagogy. And then I looked at, well, what makes these 62 special? Because they're like, got to be really special because there's only 62 of them. And what we actually learned was that clickbait. Half of them had rhetorical questions in the step title. We clickbaited them in without even realizing it. This is not something until my doctorate that was part of learning design. When you look at any kind of content about learning design and how to design a course, nobody actually talks about the titles. So for example, you can have Introduction to Diplomacy. What is diplomacy? Ooh. And so you can change the mindset of somebody being interested before they even go in. We've always been looking at data within a step without even realizing how the hell they actually got there in the first place. So it's bringing in this kind of clickbait marketing way of making MOOCs more engaging. And it was literally an accidental find. I'm not going to say I knew this from the start. I did not. It was a pure accidental find, and I'd made over 70 of them before I actually found this out. So I wouldn't put myself down as some kind of marketing, MOOC genius. It was just something I went, oh, afterwards. So now, I've left the Open University. I left just over a year ago. And I work for a company called Solera Holdings. And they're a holdings company that works in software development and data analysis that really barely anyone's ever heard of, but you actually all use it because car insurance companies buy up their software analysis and data analysis and use it. So each time you ring your car insurance company, you're talking to one of our systems. And I was invited to come in and develop their business school in 46 countries for 26 companies for the EMEA division. And I got given carte blanche, which meant I could create the business school, the courses, everything I wanted, because they didn't have anything. So it was a real golden opportunity, but I actually took everything from my doctorate and unpacked it and went, okay, so how do I make something great? As a result, we've got this 3-tier system, et cetera, et cetera. This is since updated. We've now got a 77% engagement rate on all our courses. We've got over 30 courses in 46 countries. And I'm currently now sitting at a 68% completion rate, where previously I was willing to get to 10. And that is on optional courses. Nothing in the school is mandatory. And that is by taking things like using clickbait, using engagement data that I'd found, and creating new courses. We'll be taking questions at the end, but you can tweet me if you want, because it is really about these guys. That's why I'm talking so fast, because I want to get to the main act. And I'm available at HR Gore, like Al Gore. Very easy to find, socially stalkable. And now I'm going to hand you over to Gabriel, and I'm just going to sit here as his glamorous assistant to help with the next section.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Isn't it great to have Hannah here? Probably the only person who did a doctorate on MOOCs. So we felt we need to provide you an opportunity to basically speak about the MOOCs. Oh, there's a password needed.
I don't know his password. I can tell you anything you like about MOOCs, but I can't get into his laptop.
Talking about MOOCs, I'm quite excited about it. So a few words about me. I'm about 30 years in learning and development. I'm from Switzerland, as you might hear probably. I'm working for a company called Swiss Re. Swiss Re stands for Swiss Reinsurance. So we insure the insurance companies. Now these are the big deals. And it's a very cool business. I'll share a few examples with you in a minute. So we had the pleasure to listen to MOOCs from Open University, from Solera, and I'm now looking at private MOOCs. MOOCs for an internal group where we have more liberty to design certain elements, social elements, to make it really work well. So 30 years in learning and development, I always felt, well, if I'm part of the internal academy, I should learn myself. And since 30 years around, I'm trying to earn another degree every second year. We've got 3 masters. I don't have a doctorate, so I'm very jealous. And I'm trying to learn something new regularly. And there was one expression which, talking about lifelong learning, which really put me into a corner, and that was this kind of Generation Z, digital natives, and I thought, I'm not. Maybe I'm too old for this. So, but then I thought, let's do some Scrum programs, and now I've got a Scrum Master. And then I went to a digital native and I asked, do you work with Scrum? And I don't forget the answer, it's very cool. The lady said, can you please spell this? That's very cool. I thought there is an opportunity. So learning is not a question of age. It's not a function of, in an early part of the career, there should be a lot of learning and later on not. No. MOOCs have completely changed this. And I see opportunities, so many opportunities for using MOOCs. I could tell so many stories about this. Recently, I was just on the way back from the restroom, and there was a young man with his trolley, and he was cleaning the restrooms. And I thanked him for doing the job, because that's the real tough job he's doing. And I thanked him. And we were talking, and I said, what else have you learned maybe before? And he said, well, he landed in Switzerland. He did some dental implant studies, but they were not recognized, and he doesn't know what to do in Switzerland. So I said, you've got a mobile phone? So he took the mobile phone and said, type Coursera. So he looked at Coursera, and without knowing what Coursera was offering, they do have a MOOC on dental implants. And he could not believe it. We were standing there just in front of the restrooms and looking at these, and we got all excited about it. And I said, do something with your career. Learn it. You will find half an hour. It just takes commitment. That's all. It's $49 a month, so there is no excuse for not doing it. So these MOOCs are fundamentally changing also in a corporate world what I'm doing. For example, if a manager will come to me and say, can you create some new programs on economics or presentation skill? Guess what my answer will be these days? Type www.coursera.org and you will find it. So we're not creating, there's a lot of in-house content we are not even creating anymore, and we are focusing on different topics. So MOOCs are changing kind of the whole infrastructure, the knowledge, the opportunity to gain knowledge is just outstanding with these MOOCs. Lifelong learning is not a function of age. I'd like to encourage all of us to continue learning. And if we go to the next slide, so you might say, oh, you're still here, that's very good. Now you might say, Gabriel, but working in insurance, isn't it dull? Well, look at our building here. You know the building in London. Think about how much creativity it takes to build such a building and how many creative people will be in there. I can tell you a lot. So working in insurance is not dull, and we're doing a lot of great things. Also would like to encourage you, if you're looking for opportunities, also have a look at the careers page, you will see opportunities. And you might think, what are they doing? Founded in 1863, 150 plus years, still there with 14,200 employees, very, very successful, very interesting company. And what we found out is that only 70% of insurance risks are insured. 75% of insurance risks remain uninsured. That's now, I got it right. That means if there's a calamity, a catastrophe, an earthquake or fire, 75% don't get anything. So insurance is a great way, and this is our mission, to make the world resilient, more resilient in terms of getting over it, having the finances to rebuild and continue your life. So it's a cool mission. I'm going now to the next slide. This is where I would like to invite all of you to take your mobile phones, if you don't have it yet, or your computer. Use Slido. So just type 6 letters in the address bar, sly.do. That's all. And then you'll be asked to enter code. Here's the code. Feel free to enter the code. And then we have the first question for you. So here are the instructions. Sly.do, and here's the code. I'm just waiting a minute to see whether you found it. Just the very first question is about you. It's about finding out what's your background, what have you done so far. I see many people are still typing, so I wait for a second. Once you found it, once you voted, just look at me so I can see that you're ready. Some need a bit more time. Let me see your hands. Who has voted already? Who got it? Oh, wait a minute. Some more. Maybe you help your colleague if somebody is struggling, but it should be quite simple, should be fairly simple. So if you look at results, so you see the corporate world, there are a lot of people here from the corporate world, consultants, and other. Some of you said other. Can you quickly say what's your background? Who said other? What's your background?
We are a foundation.
A foundation. Very good. Somebody else?
Civil service.
Yes, civil service. Okay. Also working with MOOCs?
Yes.
Very cool. Okay, so quite a diverse group. And I guess you can see the results on your screen. Can you? Not anymore. Oh, no problem, no problem. Hannah is very fast.
Sorry, I got overexcited.
Second question, just to learn a little bit about you. So we move on to the next slide. That is, what do we all know about MOOCs? Is this something we are very experienced in? Is it something we've just heard about or done maybe once? Let's have a look. A lot of you are exploring the topic. This is really interesting. So let me respond to those that explore the topic. Just one sentence. A MOOC is a 3-month program. And you could say every day 1 hour. So on day 1, you watch a video, then you learn something, then you start programming, then you do a team exercise, then you learn some more, then you do another video, and you do another task. And that's, let's assume 3 months, some are longer, some are shorter. And many of the MOOCs actually do offer a certificate at the end from Stanford, Harvard, or MIT, or any one of the big universities around the world. Probably also from your university. So this, a MOOC is a program that is open, and a lot of people can do that at the same time. So the question is, how do we attract attention? Can MOOCs be social? I'm going to the next slide. In a corporate world. So I'm looking at MOOCs from a corporate perspective. We write MOOCs for our line managers. So for those that are team leaders, that's what we write MOOCs for. So we use the same system, but we look at it from a corporate in-house perspective, a private MOOC. Social interactions of our MOOCs, they are quite different. So we can involve the line manager, the team, friends, local colleagues. So we've got a lot of options here, and we will explore that in a minute. So the idea was, when actually I created it, I always thought, if we replace learning with e-learning, people are in isolation. One of the strongest drivers for me to be involved in that topic was e-learning is learning in isolation, and that's not fun. So we need to do something to get the learner out of the isolation, back in a social context, to work through a topic which they might find interesting or maybe not yet. So how do we do that? Getting learners out of isolation. I'm showing you a few screenshots so that you see how does that look like. What you see here is the duration, and then it's the due date. So you see MOOC parts are 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, short activities, bite-sized, and then there's a due date. And then, of course, there will be reminders. So here's a welcome page, then how to work with it, so you learn a little bit. And then here's a network session, a 1-hour virtual session, and then you can check your understanding. And we move on. For example, your journey as a team begins. So as a line manager, you will involve your team, unlock the brain power of your team, and then you talk with your manager, and all the social activities that we prepared will now take place. So this is an in-house MOOC. And what you see here also, your journey as a team begins. Let's assume you're all line managers. We will prepare for you slides, meeting agenda, speaking points to talk with your team, to talk with your line manager, to talk with your peers. So it's all well structured, and you just can take it and apply it immediately. One of the differences how we apply that is we are working in pairs. So we're working in pairs here, and so you can select a peer and say, maybe we want to work together through the program, so I'm going to ask you, is it fine that we go together through the program? And then we have several meetings to go through it. So you can select from this whole group those people that don't have a peer yet. So there's a function to say, show me all the people that still are looking for a peer, and then we go through the program together. That is another key element. Now, before going to more detail, I'm going to ask another question to you. Which social network should be activated in a MOOC? Okay. I hear a lot, the more the better. Well, you're very experienced. You know all the right answers. The more the better is probably the choice of the day. Is that a surprise? The more the better, is it?
Yeah.
So
if you look at traditional MOOCs, it's kind of a surprise because most of them are in isolation.
They are in isolation,
so this is
yes.
the complete opposite answer,
Yes.
actually. Yeah.
This is very good to hear that.
Yeah.
So we will, from our colleagues soon, we will hear about how the university looks at it, how to make it very engaging. Okay. So we're moving to the next page, getting learner out of isolations. So what do? We involve the manager. the manager will be involved throughout the program. So we'll ask the manager for support and say, what do you want me to apply in this program? Not what I'm going to learn, what am I going to apply? That's very different. Second point, the team. So you as a line manager, you will now learn about risk management. After 1 hour of training, you will already be asked, please do a team meeting and invite your team. Now, not to lose your face, you probably need to learn a little bit about risk management because you'll do a team meeting and talk with them about risk management. So we make the learner a teacher in the program, and that is after 1 hour of the training only. So as a line manager, you would say, okay, I guess I need to learn about this. Where do I get the material? And then, of course, you will be supplied with a lot. The learning partner, the local peer groups, SMEs, community manager, all of these networks are being involved. I see signals about time. Now we have some more time. I'd like to show you a little bit the instructional design. So there's a little bit preparation, just 20, 30, 40 minutes. And then it's the idea to talk with the boss and to start a kick-off web-based conference. So all the learners are together. We talk about the program. You talk with your boss, and the boss says, do this and don't do this. Next step is peer-to-peer exchange session. So we talk and say, oh, we should run the team meeting soon. Can you help me? What would you do? And then next step is we do it immediately 70%, so it's 10, 20, 70. Involve your own team with outcomes, videos that need to be created. So you see, after that short time, they already implement strategy and action planning with their team. So it's less about learning, it's much more about doing. Then they create an action plan and say, over the next 6 months, I need to change this, I need to do this. Immediately, they will go to the manager and say, this is what I plan to do. Do you like it? Do you want me to do more or less of it? Then they have the peer-to-peer session. The next session, we talk together. We have expert input that will comment on your paper. And there's another master plan session, a web-based conference on that. And then it's time to involve the team the second time, get another sign-off from your boss. So you see, there's little learning and a lot of doing with different networks. That's a little bit the design of our MOOCs. Scrolling down a little bit. This offers us an opportunity to use the next function from Slido, the word cloud. Now, you can please choose one word only and send. You can choose it again to make sure you're heard really well. One word and send. The question is, which social activities should or could be implemented in MOOCs? What kind of social activities would you recommend to be implemented in MOOCs? So type a word, one word only, send. And you can do another one. One minute. Okay, we do the summary slide. But we have some more time, no problem. We're not in. Okay, can we see some results? Very nice. Can I see that on your phone?
Yeah.
What are the main words?
Well, it doesn't show actually the different numbers, but it says things like video meetings.
Video meeting, yes.
Team discussions.
Yes.
YouTube.
Wow.
Open use, teachers.
Okay. Well, a wide selection of social activities. And I think that makes it. It's got coffee there. Well, that's a very important part. That's what you care about a lot too. Just maybe one of the final slides is making MOOC successful. So what we looked at is also moving from learning to value creation. We talked about this. I think one of the key tasks from all of us would be to deal with excuses. Many people say, I don't have time, I cannot complete. Let's be robust in that part. Define benchmark, 70, 20, 10. What we also did is we looked at the development goals of our employees, and we felt many of the annual goals are weak. They're not challenging enough, not strong enough. So we analyzed and said, how strong are they? Very challenging or very mildly, just doing something? We analyze them. It's also a success element to make MOOCs strong is to make sure that there are outcome-based goals in the development goals of the employees. I think this is a good time to hand over to our colleagues from the university. So I'm switching to the next presentation.
I get to move as well. So we're just miking up and mic sharing at the moment.
Okay, so are you ready for a third example of MOOCs? Petra and I are going to talk about a MOOC that we did in the Netherlands. We did a MOOC, well, we called it a social MOOC because it was a MOOC that was about social learning. And the platform that we used was also based on social learning. So that was a double thing that it had. So let me first introduce the MOOC that we did, and then we are going to talk about what we did as a moderator, because that was our role, apart from designing, to make this MOOC a real social learning experience. As I said, the topic was social learning, and the platform was geared towards social learning. It was the first MOOC for an L&D audience in the Netherlands, Dutch-speaking audience, obviously, and we had over 500 people who were actively participating in a 4-week program, and we had anyone from students to industry gurus from our country. And it may be good to note that although we are from a university, and this was not a university initiative, it was actually an industry initiative, and we were being asked to design and moderate. So it was open to anyone, and there was no credential or certificate to be gained. It was just people who did the MOOC for their own professional development, a bit in line with what Hannah was telling to you, saying earlier. So if you have a look at the picture that is on our slide, this is actually in our university building, and it is called Studio Learning and Development. It is a place to learn and work. It's a place where students and lecturers, teachers, L&D professionals from the field can come in, like an open workspace. We run meetings, we run small workshops there. And actually we wanted our MOOC to be a little bit like this. Because if you have a closer look, you'll see that there are multiple discussions or conversations going on at the same time. You will see that there's not one expert or one teacher running or controlling the session, and yet everyone is involved and is active. And that's exactly what we envisioned for the MOOC.
This is what the MOOC looked like. It took 4 weeks, and every week we opened a new set of sources. Is my mic doing well? Okay, good. So week 1 we had a look at what is social learning, and we added a number of sources, and they were all curated sources, so we did not make the content ourselves, but we picked out sources from the internet or from articles, and we put them inside. So every week we had a different topic, and yeah. All in all, we had about 34 learning objects we placed ourselves in the MOOC, so that was our basic design over the 4 weeks. But there was a possibility for participants to add extra sources, and over 100 extra sources were added. So that also makes it really social. And the other social part, and I will show you a view of what a page within a week looked like later on. The MOOC invited people, or we invited people, to really contribute. And in these 4 weeks, we had over 4,000 contributions from all participants, which we thought a huge success, because for the most participants, it was the first time they entered a MOOC, and a lot of people reported a bit of anxiety for typing something everyone could read. And we had anticipated that, so we tried to make a very safe environment so everyone felt okay to enter contributions. And of course, these discussions went on 24/7, so we hardly slept during these weeks.
Okay, we are now getting a little bit closer into the moderation part, and we are going to share 7 things that we did, or we should have done, maybe. 7 things we learned about moderating along the way. The first thing that we learned is the importance of a very personal and, in our case, also informal introduction. Petra was just telling you that we used objects that were already there. We curated content, but there was actually one object that we made ourselves, which was a small introduction video. Petra and I just talking about who we are, what we are going to do, how we wanted to be working over the 4 weeks. And after that video, there was a very simple question, like we also started with a very simple Slido question today. Who are you and why are you here? This was the first thing that people had to go and type, like Petra said. Some people didn't yet feel comfortable with that, so we had to get them, take the first step in that. And we would make sure, as moderators, that we would respond to many of those introductions. So if somebody would say, I am here to learn about what I can do in my L&D role for my company on social learning, then we would say, well, we have some great content, but it's in week 3, so have some patience and bear with us. Some other people who we maybe knew personally, or we had some students from our university, so we would just say, hi, we're glad that you're here. But this simple step really made people feel comfortable, and it was the foundation for all the other contributions that would come up.
So, the second move. The second move was ask additional questions, and this slide shows a little, no, not a little, shows completely what the page looked like. So, with every learning object, you saw here the learning object. So here the learning object was social learning theories with a lot of links to social learning theories, all curated. And in the upper right corner was the question, the conversation starter, the question with which we helped people to get social. And in this case, the question was something like, well, did you know all these theories and which one appeals most to you? And then people started answering, so all these all this text is contribution from people, and we started then asking additional questions. So if someone said, yeah, social constructivism is really my thing, we simply asked, hey, tell us why, or how do you apply it? And then people did an extra step to explain why social constructivism was their thing. And we know this because after the MOOC we did a survey, and we got, people got really engaged, so we got a lot of answers, so we know quite a few things, not as many as Hannah, but we didn't write a thesis in the end. No, we won't.
I'm skipping one, so this is
okay. So these are outcomes from the survey, and 95%, so almost everyone said, hey, these questions made me think deeper. And 83% said, hey, this interaction really took me into the MOOC. And we got also a lot of responses from people who said, hey, I thought, oh, an hour a week, that's easy. But then I started entering the conversation, and then I got back 7 times within a week because people were reacting to me. So it got really social, and people almost drowned in their own contributions in a good way. So what we learned as moderators is that these questions were a crucial factor for learning and for engagement, and a real catalyst for social learning.
Yeah. The third move is about connecting people. And I'm actually going to try to do this live to show you an example of what we did in the MOOC. And I'm getting back to one of the first questions that Gabriel presented. And from the responses, I saw that there are several people who have either designed a MOOC or think that they are a guru on the topic of MOOCs. Could those people please raise their hands? Don't be shy.
Hey.
Thank you.
Not the guru.
Not the guru.
Not the guru.
The designer.
The designer.
Okay.
Where's the gurus?
Well, we can decide later on that. Maybe you are.
Where's the gurus?
Somebody joking. Or the guru already left, maybe.
Ah.
Then there are quite a number of people who said, well, I'm getting my way, I'm just orienting, I'm not so sure. That was the first choice that you could make. There were quite a number of people who said that they're orienting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a guy who knows quite a lot. Well, we're standing here, so apparently we also. But there's another one. Well, I'm sure they're getting the drinks ready right now, so you may want to chat with this guy later on. Yeah? This is actually what we were doing in the MOOC as well. Because we had such large numbers of interactions, people would indeed sometimes feel a little bit lost, or they would be raising a question that had also been asked, like, 2,000 responses earlier. Or there was someone who would say, well, I'm working for a hospital and I wonder how other hospitals are doing. And then we would know, hey, we have some more people from hospitals, and we would point out, hey, have a look at responses from these persons because these may be helpful for you. And this worked pretty well because afterwards, about a third said that they had gotten to know new people that they intended to stay in touch with. In a MOOC, well, I've been in many MOOCs, but for a MOOC, I think this is quite a big number.
Yeah.
So what to do as a moderator is to really facilitate within any platform that you do, facilitate the networking and encourage people to do so.
Yeah. Another very interesting finding was move 4, invite experts. Like I said, we curated all the content, so we used content other people had written. And we tried to connect also with these authors so they knew their stuff would be in the MOOC. And some of them actually took part in the MOOC themselves, and some of them started co-moderating. And then they moderated from their expert role, and we moderated from the social role, and that gave an extra flavor to the MOOC, because for the authors it was really nice to be able to discuss their contributions, because sometimes someone had written a column or a brief article, and then, well, it gets published and no one reacts. And now there were hundreds of people answering a question about their contribution. And for the participants, it was really cool to speak or chat with the author one-on-one or within the group. So it was an interesting finding, and it created even more buzz and more social activity. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go to the next move.
Next move.
It's about recognizing all contributions. Yeah. And we've summarized a part of the of one of the discussions that was going on. This was actually based on an article that we had on VUCA, and everyone loved it. Everyone said, well, this is so helpful, I finally get what VUCA is all about. And then there's one learner who says this, I thought it was nicely written, but populist renting. Sorry. So this is a dilemma as a moderator. What do you do with people who have, say, deviant opinions? And you may think that this is a little blunt, but well, hey, we're Dutch, we're famous for being blunt. So, but what we really learned in moderating is that no matter what people would type down, we would respond curious, open, and positively. And we also learned that when you do so, you get more nuance in the discussion. And this is also, well, it's a really brief summary, of course, but it's also what is happening here, because after the moderator says, hey, well, thank you for your different opinion, there comes an addition that says, well, it's not just ranting, it's just this piece I like and this piece I don't like. So there's more nuance in the discussion. Yeah.
Were they able to respond anonymously?
No. They were in there under their own names, most of the time with pictures. So
also this person.
Yeah.
Set
Yeah.
Open. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, until now it was very social and touchy-feely, but of course it's also the hard part of every tech activity, and that's, does it work? So move 6 is be there to take action fast if things do not really work out well technically. Because, well, you all have had experience with all these examples, I think, with a very difficult login procedure or links that didn't work. We encountered that especially when people worked with Macs, then they couldn't open PDFs, so we had to find something for that. Some people reported, I can't see the movie or the little film you put in. Well, the other problems no doubt are familiar too. And what we really did was take action fast. We were lucky to have a tech guy who doesn't sleep at all, I think. So often, even before we saw that someone said, hey, this doesn't work, the guy already had solved it or said, oh, coming up. So that was great. And in the end, it meant that only 2% of people said, I was put off because of technical issues. And I think it was the Mac issues that people turned away from. And about 94% was satisfied with the technical performance of the platform. And we're talking about L&D advisors, so they're not the tech people in the world. So it really went well for us, and an important point is always to make sure that technical issues are not your weakest link, and that you can focus on content and on the social part and not are busy constantly with fixing bugs.
Yeah. Then we go to the last thing that we learned. It's about promoting autonomy. And this is actually one that we really underestimated at the start of the MOOC. Because, like I said, we had 500 L&D professionals, so they know about learning. They tell others how to learn or what to learn. So we were, and they were participating from curiosity, so no certificates. So we thought they would be quite independent and self-directed in their learning. But what happened is that when they got into the MOOC, they started behaving like students. They started at week 1, learning object 1, they answered the question, they went to learning object 2, 3, and so on and so forth. And what would be happening in the conversations that maybe at, say, learning object number 6, they would say, well, for me, this doesn't really add much compared to the previous learning object. So actually, I've reached my goal for this week, but I still have the feeling that I have to do the other ones as well. And we would say, well, hey, who's telling you to do these others as well? Because make your own choices. We are not satisfied if you do everything. We are satisfied when you reach your personal goals. Yep. But we really underestimated how people really act within these MOOCs. So we really had to make sure that we encourage everyone who was complaining to make their own choices. You know, we won't feel bad if we skip a learning object that we thought was very cool. And really repeat that over and over again. So also someone who would say, well, this is the third article for this week, and I'm really fed up with articles, I want a video. Well, skip the article. You know, so make your own choices. We really underestimated that, so that's something that we would stress more when we would do it again. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we promised 7 moves, but we have a bonus move, and that's do not be the expert, but do use your expertise. Because when you become the expert on the topic and start answering questions, you kill the social part of it. Because then everyone starts staring at you, the expert, and people stop listening to each other. But being a good moderator does require a lot of expertise. And that was what we learned mainly. Yeah. And we'll have a quick summary, because the title is Simple, Successful and Social of this presentation, so very quick summary.
Yeah. Well, what made it very simple is that we, like I said, we didn't have any thresholds or any strict demands. It was open for anyone to pick whatever they like. The candy store that Hannah showed us is right on spot there. It was a very easy to use platform, and for us as developers, it was also easy to use curated content.
Yeah. It was social because of all the questions we asked, because of the platform that was really geared towards social learning, and because of our skillful moderating, we could say afterwards, because we just dived in and thought, well, we'll see what happens. Well, quite a lot.
What made it successful for us is that this social aspect really took off, and we had overwhelming interactions and discussions. We also had great numbers of people who said, well, I really look very positive to MOOCs and social learning afterwards, now that I've come to experience it. And one thing that we also learned, which wasn't planned, is that it worked really well to have people learn together across borders. People were learning across borders of organizations, of professions, because we mainly had L&D people, but we also had some organizational development people, we had some IT participants, and we also had, like we said, the gurus, really people, senior people in big companies, but we also had first-year students from our university. But if you have 500 people, well, you know that someone's name is Peter or Mary or Petra or Marlo, but you don't remember who's behind. So there would be people who would normally at a conference or in a meeting would not be really interacting with each other naturally, would be doing so in this platform, and really, really love that part of the MOOC.
Yeah, and for us, success was not completion, because we had only a few people who really completed everything. But we did ask in the end, did you achieve your goals? And about 85% said, yes, I know more about social learning now, I've experienced this MOOC, it was okay for me. So it was okay for us.
Yeah. Well,
so
this is the wrap-up.
Yeah, wrap up.
All the moves that we've covered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you will want to be in touch,
Yeah.
you'll find us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we also have an article there and some blogs, a design sheet, and we put in a link on the platform that we've been using. Yeah. So Hannah, over to you, I guess.
With a microphone. Thank you, both Gabriel, Petra, I'm going to do it wrong, Petra
It's
and Marlo.
okay. It's
I did
okay.
so well until that point. We've got like a silent disco of questions happening on Slido, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
I'm ready now. So one of the first questions was, who financed the hand MOOC? Was it a private MOOC?
No, it wasn't. There was not. Financing was not an issue because the company who got curated to the Netherlands wanted to market curator, and that's why they offered a free course for everyone who wanted to participate.
Okay, and this is a question for all of you. Are these MOOCs open for everyone?
So in Swiss Re, the MOOCs are for line managers. We have around 2,000, and to our big surprise, we've got many more participants in it. So you might think, how does that work? We have 2,000 line managers and much more participants. Employees got interested too, and they are using that too. So our programs are accessible in-house for a certain group, but the word spread and more people are there than we actually expected.
Ours was completely open, as long as you could read Dutch.
Okay, so the next question is, are the peer-to-peer sessions face-to-face?
We have peer-to-peer sessions, and they are basically using Skype as a basis for the web-based conferences, and a peer-to-peer session, if the two of us would meet, then we just meet wherever we want to. So we encourage local groups, one-on-one, as well as local learning groups, so 10, 15 people. And in certain locations that works really well, so they meet in a cafeteria, for example.
Yeah. Well, for us, we didn't really have peer-to-peer sessions. What we did do is we organized a meetup session afterwards. We only decided to do so when we were on our way, so we didn't plan it beforehand. Also because we wanted to keep it simple, as it was for most people the first MOOC experience, so we decided to have everything in the curator platform And only in week 2 we added Twitter and then some other stuff, but we really built on what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. The meetup was fun actually, because we had all these badges lying on the table, and people would come and we would welcome them, and they would say, "Is this guy coming? Because I was discussing on the forum, but I really want to talk with him because we're not done yet with the discussion."
Okay, incoming questions. I am liking this. Which platform did you use for your MOOC?
Curator.
So we're using SharePoint.
An actual use of SharePoint. What methods did you use for finding the initial content? How did you go around finding it to make the MOOC?
Well,
that's a good question.
We took a shortcut because there was the MOOC Exploring Social Learning had run here in Britain on Curator. So we started out with all the content there, and then we skipped quite some content because we thought it was too much, and we added a number of Dutch sources. So we kept it really simple.
In our MOOCs, it was top down. So senior management said we need strategy, risk management, budgeting, and so on. And the expectation was to do a worldwide workshop tour. And we felt that's too expensive. So we said, let's do e-learning. And we said, no, then learners are in isolation. And then we came to the conclusion we need to create a MOOC, which blends the best elements, and that was well received. So it was top down.
They keep on flying in. I'm trying to keep up.
Nice.
It's literally like the Spanish Inquisition right now on MOOCs. What have you learnt about MOOC functionality?
MOOC functionality?
Rob, I'm going to call upon you in the room. Aha! Hold on, I'm going to run. This is my challenge Annika moment.
So you've shown several examples which have got a really different look and feel. Okay, so how did you decide which bits of SharePoint functionality or, the other one, Curator functionality that you would use?
Okay.
Great question. Thank you for that. So we didn't look at technology first, but at the needs of the user. And we said it has to be social. So we said one-on-one discussions, team discussions, web-based calls. And then we went to IT and said, can you enable that? And thank God they said yes.
Yeah. We worked with a very early version of Curator, and we used basically everything that was in it. And there was also a gamification element in it. We didn't talk about that, which helped people score points and which didn't help us in a maximum way, because that was partly why people complained about all the sources, because they wanted to get the points, but not do the sources. So in the next version, I would keep that out.
Yeah, we already kept it very light, because from simple, well, actually Don had thought of this title Simple, but it was also one of our principles, let's keep it really simple and no very fancy...
No frills.
No thrills. So, and some people really liked the small gamification part that we had in it, but others didn't even notice. So, yeah.
Okay, I've got a question that keep coming in. Do you need to moderate or referee disagreements amongst the learners? I'm guessing not amongst the staff, I'm guessing amongst the learners here. Right.
Yeah. Well, we did not. No? People solved problems between themselves or disagreements. And it really helped that people were there under their own name. So we didn't have trolls. You could see who was saying what. So, well, you could start ranting or blaming someone, but then it was under your own name, which is not very smart in a pretty small community in a pretty small country where everyone meets everyone continuously. So that's a very simple mechanism.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one final question. How do the learners interact with the social network? How did you find them socially interacting? Did they enjoy it?
Yes, I think there were some findings in it where 93% said yes, it helped, the questions helped, and 83% said it really enhanced my MOOC experience. And it kept me in the MOOC because I wanted to see more.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else to add? No? Okay, great. So we're now moving on wherever the magic clicker has gone to. to the exciting part. I know, I don't actually know where. Oh, it's hiding. It's hiding.
The bridge.
The bridge.
The bridge.
Now, we felt at this point that you might be knackered. So we added a cable car to our bridge, and I can't tell you how long I spent trying to find a picture with a cable car on a bridge, because annoyingly, the cable car that's just over there is nowhere near the bridges in London. And that was my inspiration, and it didn't work out. So imagine that this is London Bridge and the Emirate Line, okay? So what we've done as well to help you travel along this bridge in style is that these fantastic panel with me came up with some things to help you along the way along this bridge, and to think about the bridge that you're going to have. Now, in previous sessions that I've been in, you can chat amongst yourselves, write it down, tweet it out, interpretive dance, I mean, whatever gets you going on a Thursday evening. But do think about, from all of this, what are you going to take home? Does anyone have any ideas right now that they want to share? I do love putting people on the spot. That they want to share to bring back to their organisation. Does the panel have anything that they've learnt along the way from each other during our time together? I know, I do like to put people on the spot.
I was actually happy with what you were saying about completion rates. That it's not the holy grail or the holy measurement of the success of a MOOC. It's what is in it and what people get out of it. And well, if you want to work with adult learners, then let them make their own choices. Yeah.
I'm going to delve your thesis up and read the conclusions. I hope they're in the front.
No, just go with the conclusions, guys. I mean, it's 55,000 words. There's an exec summary, don't worry. But yeah, it's freely available. If you look at my Twitter, it is a pinned tweet. This is not a plugging session for me at all. But if you need a cup of Horlicks and something to cure insomnia, it's a good gig. Gabriel, is there anything else that you want to add that you've learned along this journey with LT?
Well, it reconfirmed the thinking that the social interaction make all the difference. Learning can be dry, you know, especially if there are technical dry topics like finance or certain risk management aspects. And it's the social interactions that make all the difference. So I was quite inspired by the presentations where you shared the impact of focusing on that aspect on completing and on learning, on liking the MOOCs.
I managed to dodge questions for me all this time. I thought I got away with it.
Is there a difference across cultures with social learning? Would a person in Britain have a different experience of social learning from someone in China or in North America or in Indonesia? Or from your thesis, have you found that broadly speaking, humans are humans and their social learning is more individual than culturally based?
That's a really good question, actually.
Learning across borders,
God damn it, that's a good one.
There's differences, or there are differences across borders.
Yeah, I mean, you will find, it's always hotly contested, things like learning styles, but you will find that some people would naturally give their opinion. There are some people that would hold back, and it's not necessarily down to culture. Sometimes, depending on how you posed a question, may unlock a cultural difference. So, for example, if it's a very technical-based question rather than an opinion piece, you'll find people from different cultures or different backgrounds responding in different ways. What we found in our MOOCs is that we always try to start a MOOC with an icebreaker. Not in a, hi, my name's Hannah, I live in Oxfordshire and I've got a cute dog. I have. He's very cute. But in an opinion piece kind of way, because what I actually learned from making MOOCs was the number one thing people like to do, even if they don't know the answer, is give their opinion on it. So it's a good way to get people going at the beginning. And in learning design, you ask the same question at the end. So for example, I made a MOOC for the Open University where I made a series of them about managing money. And we asked them at the beginning, you know, how do you manage your money? You know, completely do not give away all your trade secrets. We're not going to hack your accounts or anything, but what is your opinion on things like credit ratings and do you think you do a good job managing money? And then we took them along the managing money journey and we asked the same question at the end and we asked them to go back to their original answer at the start and go, okay, is that any different? And through them giving their opinion at the start, what they realised by the end was that A, they'd learned something, and B, that opinion had changed. So sometimes it's really good to get people to socially share, not just because they like giving their opinion, but it's actually a very stealth sort of reflective log that they don't know that they're filling out. Because if you ask someone to fill out a reflective log at the beginning, they'll tell you to sod off. So use those kinds of tools and leverage it that way, rather than constantly going, you know, what's the answer to this, what's the answer to this? They do like to naturally give opinion. But also, like I said in my presentation, think about the active lurkers. Think about the people that are liking. And if you've got moderators, they're very good at tying in what people are saying and bringing it to like the next learning point, the next learning point. And if people are liking that, A, your moderator's doing a good job, but also as well, people are actually learning from that as a social learning piece within. So don't always discount the fact that not everyone is commenting. I mean, we don't spend all our days commenting on Facebook. I'm guessing we're doing our day jobs. But we don't do it ourselves. So look at the way that people are actually interacting with those social comments, and then see how, and it is really down to working on understanding your learners for your MOOCs. What kind of things would get them interested in talking and going? And I thought I got away with it. Damn it. Hold on.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to respond on the cultural aspect, because there is a big aspect if you're going to do a post-course evaluation and you ask the same question in, let's say, in Germany compared to Japan, you can have a completely different answer while they mean the same or the opposite. So maybe the responsiveness and everything can be quite moderated, but if you do an evaluation afterwards, you really have to culturize and regionalize there.
I mean, especially with the hand MOOC, and you said yourselves, the Dutch are famed for being blunt. If a British person read that, they'd probably die inwardly inside. But it is understanding the different multicultural nature of your learners. So hopefully you've got something to take with you in your cable car across the bridge, and Don is not going to kill me for completely and utterly adapting his system. But you've now got time to have a nice cup of tea or a glass of wine or something and mingle with people. And I really hope that you've had a good time here at Learning Technologies, and hopefully see you all guys next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.